Hello and welcome to another Tony Talks 2 interview. And today I am so privileged. I have literally a legend with me today. I'll give you an intro first so you can know who he is in your background. Now, obviously, some of you watching or listening would know him because he's a household name in Nigeria, but I'm going to introduce you to him. Those of you that don't know, he is, first off, an award-winning international speaker. He is a trainer. He is a corporate MC, and he is a published author, and altogether a wonderful human being. I want you to put your hands together for the one and only Mr. Victor Tarfa. Victor, woo!
Thank you so much for that.
Victor, welcome. I'm really pleased that you chose to come on my program here to do this little interview. I'm really, really pleased that you're here. So I'm looking forward to it.
It's a great honor. It's a great honor. Thanks a lot, Tony.
No, thank you. Now, obviously, this is slightly different to maybe what you've done before, because this is an opportunity for our listeners and viewers to sort of get to know you as a person, maybe the background side of things of yourself that they don't know, because obviously they may see the corporate side, your speaker side, which you do so well around the world now, literally. So this is just sort of our audience getting to know who Victor is, who the real Victor is. So I'm going to ask you straight off, where were you born and how old are you? Can you let our viewers and listeners know?
I can answer the first question, but the second one I'll have to calculate. I stopped counting when I turned 40. So, so every time I get asked how old am I have to sit back and think, okay. And the trouble is, because 2020 didn't exist, I don't know whether to add that to my age or not. So it leaves me wondering how old I am. And I was born in Plymouth, that's here in England.
Oh, wow.
And I left when my dad was schooling out there. He was doing his university. Then it was Plymouth Polytechnic. And so he was there for about 4 years, and I was born like in the second year when he was here. And when he finished after 4 years, we moved back to Nigeria when I was 3 years old.
Oh, wow. And were you brought up in Nigeria then? Yes,
I was brought up in Nigeria. I spent 26 years of my life in Nigeria. I did my primary school, secondary school, my university. After I graduated from university, we have something we call national service. So I did my national service, where you spend a year serving the country, basically.
Okay.
So it's sort of like a paramilitary kind of thing, but it's not really like an army thing anyway. So you do some marching, you learn sort of personal skills, you spend time in the camp, and then you now go out there and work, and the government sort of pays you a very tiny amount of money. And so you're like a government property at that time for a year anyway, just working for them. It's great because it integrates people from all across the country, which I think was great too.
Right.
So if you're from the South, ideally you should be serving in the North. If you're from the North, you should be in the South. So it gets people into states and parts of the country they've never been to before. So you get to find out more about other cultures, because we're a very, very diverse country. So it gets you to find out about other cultures, which is great.
Okay.
So when I finished that, then I moved to, once I finished that, then I was now caught between, do I move back to UK? Because I was born here, I was a citizen here, so I'm from two countries basically.
Yeah.
I was caught between, do I move back to UK or do I stay back in Nigeria? So I got a job with a bank in Nigeria, and obviously I had a bird in hand. But if I move back into UK, I have to come and start all over again. So it's like a bird in hand is what 20 in the bush, as the saying goes. But I think as we grow up in life, you tend to realize that a lot of sayings we were told before, like simple things like think outside the box. It should be, you know what, there's no box. You throw the box away and just start again. And that's where life is now, more or less anyway. So even with the lockdown last year and everything else, we've learned that it's not just about thinking outside the box, it's about building a whole, but there's no box in fact. So there's no limitations to what you can actually do for you to even begin to even think of sitting within one and trying to think out of it. So it's so it was a case of a bird in hand is what 10 in the bush, but obviously I chose, okay, you know what, I'm going to walk into the bush and go looking for a new bird. Because I just felt I want to challenge myself, a brand new experience, move into a country in which I need very few people, and just see where I'm going to start again. And today I look back sometimes and I say, I'm glad I took that jump. So at
what age did you actually make the transition back
Well,
to
still,
the
I
UK?
was pretty old because I'm using what old. I was in my 20s, so I moved back here about, I think it was 17 years ago. I think so. I was around about 26, 27, I think it was.
Okay.
Well, actually, I was 26. I was about 20, 28. I'll say thereabout when I moved back
Right.
here.
So you'd got your education in Nigeria, and you've done all that. You did your military service, as you said,
Yeah.
and then you chose to come back here. So did you come back on your own, or had you met a loved one? How did it work?
It's amazing how life works, because what happened was I had my British passport, which I had to process the passport in Nigeria. So it was quite a tedious process because I had to dig out all the old photos and everything else and present to the embassy and everything. So I did that. So the only Nigerian passport I had was a passport in which they made for me here when I was 3 years old when we traveled back to Nigeria.
Oh, wow.
So because in those days, kids could travel on their parents' passport, so the kids didn't have the passport on their own.
Right, yeah.
So when we came. So well, I wasn't born anywhere when they came, but when they were going back, so they made, because my sisters were traveling on my parents' passports, they felt it was easier for them to just make a new passport for me. So they made a Nigerian passport for me while I was here, but they didn't do a British one. So I did the British one while I was in Nigeria at the consulate in Nigeria. So when I've done the passport, so now I had my old Nigerian passport and obviously a valid British passport. So when I came to the UK, I don't know what happened, what I was thinking about, but I assumed I could fly back into Nigeria on a British passport. I didn't realize that I couldn't. So as I did my research before traveling, I just assumed, and then I came in here. Now, that was a big mistake. But you know, when you look at life, sometimes you make a big mistake, but it works in your favor. So let me tell you what happened now. So
yeah, please do. I'm intrigued. Go on.
So when I came in, when I got to the airport, the guy now said to me,
this is in the UK.
Yeah, no, when I was leaving Nigeria.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I presented, so when I'm leaving Nigeria, I leave Nigeria on a British passport. When I go to Nigeria, I go to Nigeria on a Nigerian passport. So I just swap around basically. Yeah. So when I was leaving Nigeria, I presented my British passport because I was flying to London. And the guy says to me, do you have a Nigerian passport? I said to him, no, I don't. So he now said to me, you better get a visa for the way back. So that's when it now occurred to me as in, oh my Lord, because I was only coming to spend 2 weeks, because the whole idea was I'll come and spend 2 weeks, see what it looks like on holiday. But I was going to stay with my father's friends, and I'm going to spend the 2 weeks, see what England looks like. If I want to come back and move permanently, I can do that. So I can taste the journey for me, basically. So I needed to go back in 2 weeks. So he now said to me, make sure you get a visa for the way back. And I thought, oh my Lord, I thought I could come back with a British passport. And you will not believe that even my parents didn't even bother to even check, So you know what, you wonder, how did we miss that? How did we make that mistake? So anyway, I come into the UK, and I was staying with my father's friend for the 2 weeks. And then, so I told him what happened. He now said to me, okay, fine, don't worry. He knows someone that works at the embassy. You'll see if you can speak to the guy so I can speed up the process, because I had to get a Nigerian passport in 2 weeks. So I filled out all the forms, went to the embassy, submitted my forms, and normally it takes 2 weeks for the passport to be processed. Okay. So I submitted everything, and then they started the process for me. And then so it was easier for me because I had the old one. So now we're renewing the old one, not renewing, new one. So it made it a bit easier for me. So I took it to them. So while I went to the embassy on the day, so I went to pick up the passport, flying back to Nigeria on the day I was going back. So I went to the embassy in the morning to pick up the passport. And while I was there, I now bumped into one of my uncles that had not seen him for over 10 years. And
at the embassy?
At the embassy.
Oh,
so
wow.
He was there to pick up his children's passports. And then so we now got talking. But I didn't recognize him because I've not seen him in years. And when I was in secondary school, I was in boarding school, he's come and see me. So when he came, so he now said, he didn't even call me as, because my middle name is Dawda, so he called my middle name. Oh, Dawda, so I looked at him like, I remember him, yeah. So we got talking anyway. He now said, what am I doing here? Oh, when did I come to the country? Because he didn't even know I was around. So I said to me, yeah, I've been around for 2 weeks. I'm just about going back now. And I can't pick up my passport. So he now said to me, oh, why are you going back? Are you not a British citizen? I said to him, yes, I am. Then why don't you stay here for a while and see whether you can like it or not? And that was the statement he said to me. He said, don't worry, when you come back, you can stay with me for some time before you get a job and find your feet and get your own place, and no problem at all.
Oh, wow.
That passport that I did not have, that passport that I refused to, that I made the mistake of not checking whether I could come back with it or not, that big mistake I made. Because, when you look back, you think, how did my parents not even think about that? Because I was quite young, 26, 27 years old. So you think, okay, you're sending me out to that country, they sort of think, let's check he has all documents, let's check he has everything. For some reason, it just trusted me to do everything, basically. Yeah, he should be all right, he should check everything. Because if I want to send my kids out, I'll make sure all documents are correct, everything is in order. But you just think, How did we all miss that?
Did they trust you? Is that what it was?
Exactly. That mistake is more or less contributed, I could say, 90% to me living in the UK today.
Wow. Wow. But so it was a beneficial mistake.
Exactly. So someone listening now might be thinking, oh, I made some big mistakes in life. You might be feeling so terrible because, to be honest with you, I spent the whole flight thinking about this thing. How am I going to go home? That's all I kept on going through my mind. I was thinking like, Victor, how could you make that mistake? Why do you fly out to right across how many miles in the country without thinking of, do you have the right documents to come back? I just never thought about it. I got to the airport and the man said to me, you better get a visa for the way back. That was when I rang the bell.
Goodness me. Okay, so subsequently, obviously, you did go back. It all went well.
Yeah.
So when did you decide to come back again? Did you take up your uncle's offer?
Yeah. So that's what I did was I got back and I sat down thinking, because then I got a job at the bank and I was thinking, oh, do I go start working with this bank now? Because what I would do, waiting for me to sign the contracts and send it back, and then they're going to post me to one of their branches. So I was caught between that. I was like, okay, fine, I got this thing. And then it was quite a good job because the pay was quite reasonable because to do with some of the banks. So I looked at it, I thought, should I take that up or should I do that or should I just go? So I woke up in the morning. So my dad said to me, I'll let you make a choice, whichever way you want to go. So I woke up one morning, I remember I was brushing my teeth and I was just thinking, what do you want to do? 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 And I said, you know what, I'll go. So I decided to go. And then, so my dad said, fine. So you bought me a return ticket, but the return part of the ticket was for a month. So obviously the returns they were doing then was only for 1 month. So like a 1 month return. So I said, fine, you can fly up, you got a return part, you got 4 weeks to be there. Worst case scenario, you don't like whatever it is now, no problem at all. You can always come back in 1 month. So I still have that return ticket, never used it. Well, I've been to Nigeria several times after, but obviously it's expired. Yeah. But obviously to me, it's like, look at it and think to myself, I'm glad I never used that return ticket. So,
right. So you made your decision. And
I made my decision and I stuck to it.
Wonderful. Do you find, I mean, you mentioned there you're brushing your teeth and these ideas are flowing in your head. I mean, I'm sidelining slightly. Do you find that is a good time when you let your mind rest, when these ideas pop into your head, your consideration?
I was saying the other day, there's two things I wish somebody maybe will invent. Maybe they exist, I don't know, but somebody listen today, here's an idea now. One is a waterproof pen, basically, that everyone can hang in their bathrooms. So while you're having a shower, an idea crops into your head, you just sort of turn around, just maybe like a hanging pen, pick up the pen, write the stuff in the wall and carry on. Because the number of so maybe quotes are coming to my mind, ideas are coming to my mind when having a shower or brushing your teeth is amazing. And second is when I'm running, because I'm the kind of person which I love my morning runs. So when I'm running, I want to make sure that while I'm running, if I stop, I struggle to start again. So once I started off, I must complete it. It's 5 kilometers, whatever it is, I must complete at one go. So there are times in which I'm listening to something and a powerful idea comes in my mind. But because you sort of got the phone tucked away and everything else, you're listening to the thing, to stop and get your phone out, get the notes, start trying to type in and whatever it is, it becomes very hard. So I choose not to do that, you see. So I just wonder, I know what can be invented. Maybe I can have something, maybe recording that can say, talk to you to just say, okay, if I record these words for me to remember later. Because there are times in which you could finish and I'll begin to think, oh, what was that thing I thought about earlier?
Yeah,
you might remember it, but you might not remember it exactly the way it came to your mind at the time, as fresh and as powerful as it came to mind at the point in which you actually got that message in your head. Yeah. Those are two inventions, maybe someone can think about it.
Well, there you go. Listeners, viewers, if you're watching this, if you've come up with the idea, remember, Victor had the idea and commissioned for Tone as well because he's interviewing him. But hey, come up with that brilliant idea, because I'm like you, the same. You come up with these ideas in this quiet moment where the hustle and bustle, I suppose, of life. Yeah. You when you're brushing your teeth, you sort of let it come down and your mind wanders, and that's when that inspiration comes to mind. So I totally agree with you, and I like that idea about the pen in the shower. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on with the interview. So you've basically given us an update of how and where you were born and your age roughly, but you won't tell us properly.
Because you know what, I'm serious about the part in which if you wake me up and say, how old are you, Victor? I'd love to think. Well, I think this year, because I was born at the end of the year, sometimes I always wonder, no, I haven't turned that age yet. Because I think, well, I was born 77, so that makes me 44 this year. So 44 in November this year. So yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Now obviously you're married with children. When did you meet? Is Edna, isn't it? When did you meet Edna?
Well, you see,
And
that was one of the things on my mission too. You see, before I left Nigeria, I had a plan. I said, you got to find a wife before you leave.
okay.
And I had a plan. So it's quite warm here.
No, the feeling, trust me.
Sorry,
It's a hot day today.
It's fine. Sorry, Tony.
No, you carry on.
I'm becoming too sweaty, so I better wipe it off. Yeah. So let me start again now. Yeah, the interesting thing is that was one of my missions when I was leaving Nigeria too. And because I said I'm going to find a woman I'm going to marry before I leave. So I gave myself that mandate. So after I've come and spent the 2 weeks, I went back to Nigeria for like another 1 month before I came back again. So within that 1 month, I was a man on a mission. You're going to find a woman you're going to marry before you leave. And and that's how everything everything just fell into place basically. I met Edna quite a while ago, and I gave her my phone number, but I didn't take hers because then in Nigeria, when the new mobile phones came out, you couldn't, if you're on different networks, like somebody on Vodafone could not call somebody on EE. You had to only call people on the same network. Yeah, that's how it was when it first came out.
Oh.
You couldn't call between the networks. So wow. I was in a different network from her, but obviously my network was like because my dad worked for a company like NITEL, which is like BT here, like the government-owned telecoms company.
Right.
So because my dad was loyal to them, we had to use their own networks.
Right.
So that was what I was using, and then her mobile phone was one of the private networks. So obviously she couldn't call me, but I gave her my number. So because I gave her my number, and then one day her sister comes around, and her sister has one of the same networks that I have to.
Oh.
So she just sort of thought, I think I know someone that's got the same network as you. So yeah, I'll use your phone to call him. So she just called me up, and I happened because then my dad plays golf. So I dropped him off at the golf course, and I went off to hang around with some of my friends while I was waiting for him to finish playing golf. And then suddenly the phone rings, and I was like, I didn't know it was. So I answered the phone, it was her. And I said, where are you? She was like, I'm in my sister's house. I'm like, beautiful, let me come around and see you then, because you're like 5 minutes drive away. So I jumped in the car, we went out there, met her, we got talking, and here we are. Today we're married with 3 kids.
Wow.
So it's amazing when you just look at life and look back at this sort of thing. Well, I don't believe in coincidence. I don't believe in logic. So it's that kind of thing, as in, I was a man on a mission, trying to find a woman I'm going to marry before I leave the country. What were the chances I was going to be 5 minutes away from her?
No,
the
incredible.
day she called me. The chances are very low because I live about 45 minutes away from where she is. So what was the chance that I decided to follow my dad to the golf course that day because of a house swap? The golf was like an hour away from where we live. So he just sort of fine, don't worry, I'll drive you up there today. So what was the chance I offered to drive him up to the golf course on that day? You see, so there's a lot of factors that couldn't have fallen into place. But, when you're looking for something, the world comes together and make sure you find it. And I think that's what it was.
Wonderful. That's a lovely story, I must admit, because some people have interesting stories when they meet their partners, etc. But that's lovely because it was out the blue. You had taken your dad to the golf course, and it was just 5 minutes from there. It's like, it was almost meant to be, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Certainly the case for that. Okay, now you were growing up, and I mean, was Edna? Are you going to say this on the recording now? Was she your first true love? Please say so.
No, she knows anyway. Obviously, she knows because normally you'll have these conversations and everything else. I know. Obviously, in life, you meet people that you think, okay, this is the person you're going to marry, and then as time goes on, things happen in between. But obviously, I was the kind of guy who always had sort of long-term relationships. Some people in their young ages, they jump from one woman to another quite quickly, which is quite common in Nigeria, obviously. But obviously, I was the kind of person, if I'm going out with someone, we go out for a long time, and then until sometimes it might just after you finish school, everyone gone their separate ways, and then gradually you're not seeing each other for a very long time. So it just slowly just dies off, and then everyone just accepts that look is died off, So then you go on to something else too, and just sort of thing, and all the way.
But you're happily married now, 3 wonderful boys. Yes, how old are they?
Well, the first 2 are twins, and they're 11, and the younger one is 9.
11 and 9. Fantastic. Yeah. God, I remember seeing photos of when you showed me first time. They were really dink. How quick time flies. It's incredible.
Flies.
Wonderful. Right, I've got to ask you, what was your favourite childhood experience when you were growing up?
I think if I'll use the word favorite, at the time, I don't think I'll have seen it as being favorite. But when I look back at my life, I'll say to myself, I think I'm glad it happened. That sort of thing, is he? Well, maybe I'll go back and use the word favorite as it is, because I think obviously growing up, I grew up in northern Nigeria. It was, I was telling Enda the other day, I said, I wish we could go back to the old days when nobody did social media, nobody cared about nothing. You just did what you want. People spoke to each other, you hung around. Young men, we spend loads of time outside, most of the time playing football. And it's crazy because I'm not even a football fan at the moment. I don't necessarily, when I watch football, it is going on like crazy. Euros, the whole world wasn't watching, so had no choice but to watch anyway. So, and so if I was watching, I will, but I wouldn't sort of go out of my way to watch football. But I spent most of my childhood actually playing football. So we used to go out every time to go and play football, all those, the friends, the weather was always hot anyway, because northern Nigeria, you're constantly like 35, 40 degrees all the time.
Wow.
Anyway. And so we used to just, all the friends, go out, play football. So mom would tell you, no, you can't go out and play football today. You just sit there quietly and see nothing is going on. As soon as she goes out, you're out too. Sometimes she gets back before you, and then you get into trouble. In those days it was different, where you get the smacks and So I think they're all great. When I look back, I think say they're wonderful times growing up. So I could call it my favorite childhood moments too. And if I look back, sort of the things that molded me was me going to boarding school, because then I thought it was harsh, because we obviously lived in the northern part of Nigeria, and then, then my dad decided to send me out to the south, which was like very, very far away. I think we're looking at, you're going to drive, it was about nearly 18 hours drive, you're going to drive. You're going to fly, I think it was like an hour and a half flight, so it was a long way off. So, and then my grandmother, everyone said to him, no, it's too far away, take him out of that school. But then actually it was one of the best schools in the country. So he went with me. So, because in fact, the school actually selected who actually went to school, because it was actually called King's College. And it was made mainly to, when the British colonized Nigeria, it was made in that time so that people who pass through there actually go directly to Cambridge or Oxford. So that was made, So it was built in 1909. So it was one of the best in the country. It has very strong morals, very strong ethos. It was like, you're like Eton here, where once you go there, wherever you go to and your name is mentioned, like you went to the school, you're looked at with very high esteem. So my dad wanted the best for me. So, but then I sort of see it was too harsh. No, it was too far away, all the crazy stuff. Wow. But now I always look back and I always say, as a young child, I thought my dad was being, I'll use the word wicked, but I look back now and I think every day I say, I'm so glad he did not listen. Because some parents brought their kids there and they took them out because it was so nice, too far away and things like that. But he insisted, no, you're there and you're staying there. And I look back every day because that was the defining moment of my life. That's what molded me into the man I am today. Wow. I'm not even my university, not my primary school, nothing else. And up to today, we meet up with all my classmates from there. In fact, there's a lot of us that live in the UK actually. So we actually meet up, we catch up. In fact, we're even going cycling on Sunday, as in at the weekend. So, and that bond has stayed so strong since then. We're like brothers, basically. And it's one of those things in which none of them has ever, I'll use the word, say, disappointed me. We're going somewhere, everyone is there on time. The morals we learned from the school is still what we live by up to today, as in no doubt.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds fantastic. I wish we could transport some of those morals here, because some places, let's be honest, have lost all those core values, which is such a shame. Anyway, I've got to ask you, I mean, you've obviously, sounds like your childhood growing up was quite idyllic. You loved it in Nigeria, you get great memories. But was there anything that you actually really hated or really disliked? Because it sounds, wonderful at the minute, and it was like an ideal sort of growing up phase. But is there anything that you didn't like?
Well, especially if I think about the whole thing, I think then in your childhood, we were, as a child, you just have that free spirit, which nothing bothers you, you don't care. And I think growing up too, even as because I think the kind of person my dad is, the kind of person in which I never really saw him looking sad. I never saw him, that kind of thing, you see. And because I'm like the first son, you tend to sort of take things off your dad. And I love the way his mindset was, even though it's not everything I want to take. But I think one of the things I like about him was he never let anything worry him. So no matter how bad something is, he would never see him looking like downcast or worried and everything else. And I think I've sort of learned in life that, look, yes, I know it's good to have the right emotions for stuff, but I think there are times in which you look at something and think, what's this worrying going to get me? It's not really going to get me anything. It's not going to solve the problem at the end of the day. So I think when I look back, so I think there were some traits, I think, sort of learning of my dad, I could say, because my dad was the kind of person in which he was very fixed. If he tells you something, he never changes his mind. And I think for me, I think that was the kind of thing I hated then. You see, that was something that used to get to me, because because he can, and there are times in which he will tell you stuff, you make up his mind, he's not going to change his mind. And you think, you know, I think you logically, you can think, he's not, you know, but you're like, no, he said it and that's it. So, and it's funny because I'm just trying to think if there's any time in my childhood I remember my dad changing his mind. I don't think I can think of any. Because once he's made up his mind, he doesn't go back on it. You see, so his words have come out, and he was a man of very few words. So if he says it, that's it. There's no going back on it. Right. So, and so because he was a very strong man of integrity, like super integrity. Even up to now, when I go to places and they sort of say, "Oh, is that your dad? Oh, wow, I watched him before. He was a very," they call him a very strict man, but obviously what they need to use is, he does things the right way. He doesn't go around in circles. See? So at times in which my childhood, which I really didn't like that because I didn't really like that because it could be sometimes be tough because trying to get out of something now, that's it, you got to do it. So those are the parts I struggle with. But great thing about life is I can look back now and say, I'm not all of it, but I think most of it now, because it was his fixation, like say you go there. But for my secondary school was because of the kind of person he was. No, you stay in the school, you stay in that boarding school, you're not going to come back. I'm not going to move you to a different school, you're going to stay there. And because he's put his foot down, even though he had pressure from my mom, from my grandmother, from all my aunties, he didn't refuse to change his mind. So you can imagine that now. And now I'm looking back and saying, I'm so pleased he didn't change it. So in as much as I hated it, I look back now and I feel I can say to myself, I love it now.
Wonderful. So that strong character trait, is that something you admire in other people if they've got a similar trait today? Because obviously you realize that with hindsight, I suppose, that your dad was quite firm and strong, but he had your best interests at heart.
Yeah.
Is that a trait that you admire today or not? Or what particular trait do you like in other people?
I think for me, it's about, I love the fact that it's a good trait for me, which I'll say is great. Because to me, I think to a large extent, if somebody is predictable, so you can tell the kind of person they are, so you know their character. So even if something happens, you know, or someone tells you a different story, you can always say straight away, no, that's not him. You know, so to me, is that those kind of people are kind of actually really love, because you know them very well. They're not like one way they're here today, the other day, but you know, that kind of sort of thing. You know, the kind of thing where someone will look at you and say, oh, no, this guy now is not possible, he can't be late. And even if you're late, they'll look at it based on, okay, something serious
gone wrong. Yeah.
It must have gone wrong for you to be late. So I love those very strong character traits, but at times in which they take it a bit too far. You know, I am like to me sometimes my wife could look at me like as if, and then I could look at me like as if I got those traits. But the difference between me is that I'm very flexible too. So I could be that way sometimes, but if you could present to me another way in which I can see clearly in front of me that yes is a better way of doing it, then I'm more than happy to do that.
So you're more malleable.
With my dad, because my dad wasn't flexible at all.
Right.
I can't think of a day in which he was not flexible at all. And the lack of flexibility was what really got to me. But even him not being flexible has helped me obviously to where I am today, which is great. Even though I hated it then. But in my own case, I think I took that trait. But the trait of my own case is I am very flexible too. I'm very, very flexible. So, but sometimes my wife and my editor doesn't think that way. Doesn't think I am. But I know I am.
You are. Okay. I'd love to get her on here. Actually, ask her that question. Okay. Now let's move forward a little bit. Now, obviously, you've been very successful in the last few years. Now, is what you're doing now your ambition in life, or have you still to fulfill that? Maybe that's a bit of a loaded question, but
yeah, I think I've got a very, very long way to go, and I look at my life every day and I think to myself, I've got a long way to go, very, very long way to go. Beginning of this year, I actually sat down and wrote my eulogy, and which is quite interesting because I know I did a video the other day on Instagram, and I was talking about that, because I leave, when I take a long walk, there's a graveyard I actually go past sometimes, and I think I was coming back one day and I actually decided to walk through it. And, you know, and then when I walk through sometimes, I just sort of read the headstones, you know, okay, fine, different people, you know, and I think I spotted a few people who are actually like maybe 20-year-olds or maybe 17-year-olds, you know, from dates and there. I'm like, wow, this person was very young. Yeah. And, you know, I always remember saying when they say the graveyard is what got all the talents and everything else in the world. I think Les Brown, I think it was either Les Brown or Miles Maroda said it.
Yeah.
You know, so when I look at stuff like that, you know, it made me think at the beginning of the year, I said, you know, I'm going to write my eulogy. And so I'm going to write and hand it to somebody and say, fine, read this when I'm lying there. You see, but the thing is, because obviously when it comes to most people that die, you never hear anyone say something bad about somebody who's died. It's always good. Exactly. It's very rare. Someone will come up there and do a speech and say horrible things about a person. But but sometimes people just say it, not everybody's a good person, which is the truth. You see, and obviously the fact that you're dead doesn't make you suddenly become a good person. No. So, but obviously, but because everybody can't say bad things about it, because everybody's mourning, then you can't go there and say bad things. So I thought, okay, if I write mine and say, if I read this on, and I look at it every day and say to myself, Victor, they can't read that because you haven't done it yet. They can't read that because you haven't achieved it. I think that's one way of challenging myself. And that's why I did that in the first place. And so if I look at my life now, I can say I am very, 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 very far away. But the thing about life, about setting goals, I think you say you have to set a goal that is massive, because the truth is, you're not really always going to achieve the ultimate goal that you've set. But the thing is that, in fact, it's all about those small steps. And that's why I love when I was in small step, big victory. Because it's all about those small steps that you achieved and who you're becoming in the process of getting you to where you actually need to be. I think, to me, that's what's most important. So it's up to the people whether they're going to read that eulogy at the burial or not. But at the end of the day, I've challenged myself to say, I need them to read that. So I can say to them, okay, fine, if I haven't achieved that, don't read it. But obviously, I'm not going to lie there thinking to myself, Victor, you could, because I believe there are things I can achieve in my lifetime. And even if they can read it anyway, knowing that I was on my way there to achieve it. So which is another thing too. So, or they might not read it at all. They don't really have to read it. But for me, it's meant to challenge myself to say, that's what I want read. And that means I need to make sure that is true at the time I'm lying out there.
That's a wonderful idea, actually. Do you think that our listeners and viewers should take that on board, because that would then challenge them to read out, well, not read, but aspire to what they've put in their eulogy?
I think it's a good thing for them to do. Some people, some people are self-scared of death. Some people don't even talk about it at all. Some people don't even think about it at all, you see. But I just felt to say it's something we all can't afford it every day. So it's good to just it's good to just. I'm sorry, I'm talking about it on the podcast.
No.
But I just have that thing in my head when it says start with the end in mind. As you know, the 7 laws of
absolutely.
It says start with the end in mind. 7 habits, I mean. So it says start with the end in mind. So it's one way of starting with the end in mind. So we all look at the end based on, okay, the end goal of building a business, the end goal of becoming a world speaker, the end goal of different things. But nobody looks at the end goal of when I've left. The end, that's the real end. You see, so if you start with something, like start with a real end in mind. And the reason why I went to real end is because one thing that trips me most is legacy. As in, if there's anything that impresses me so much, that inspires me so much, that makes me want to jump off the roof, is legacy. When I see people, like I listened to a guy, I don't know if you've heard about it, called Miles Monroe. I listened to Miles Monroe's YouTube videos, and I'm listening to Miles Monroe, and I'm thinking in my head, this guy died quite 6-7 years ago. And I'm listening to a YouTube video, and it sounds as if it was just made on that day. There was a time in the pandemic, I listened to one of his videos on my walk. And as I listened to it, I said to myself, everything he was saying was like how to overcome adversity. Everything he was saying were things that we needed while we were right in the middle of those lockdowns, those terrible pandemic, right in the middle of the pandemic in last year. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, he's not even here. He didn't know we were going to be in this state one time. But it was so relevant. And I thought to myself, I said, this is legacy. You're gone years and years, and people are still talking about you. People are still benefiting from the things you've built on this earth. And legacy is one thing that it touches my heart on a daily basis. And maybe because I'm so crazy about building legacy, so crazy about, my mind is constantly on the long time, not what we do now. It's constantly about what legacy can I build? How could I live this world? And it's not about showing off about it. It's just the fact that, you know what, I've left this place a better place. And people are still benefiting from the things I put on this world when I went away.
Wonderful. That is inspirational, and things that people should aspire to as well. So you're leading from the front, which is fantastic. Now, I mean, I was going to ask you about your career, but you sort of touched a little bit about the banking, and this is a question that I wanted to ask. Obviously, you're quite measured. You know where you're going in life, which is fantastic. But come on, you're not Mr. Perfect. What bad habits do you have? Come on, that you want to admit to our audience.
Now, the interesting thing in life is you hear everyone's story, and they tell you about when they were down there. If you can listen to Les Brown, they tell you about when he bought a house with his mother, and then the guy met the Duke team, and then obviously the guy disappeared. You know, he was down when he had to sleep in his car, when he had to sleep in his office. You hear stories of Tony Robbins who didn't have no food and everything else. So and most speakers, most people out there have those stories of when they were in the ditch, when they were way down there. But my biggest weakness is I don't have those stories, because I can say, God, thank God for this. We've always been fine. There's no time in which we woke up and said we had no food to eat in my house. It's because my dad worked for the government. You know, in as much as, yeah, he was a very honest man. So most people might doubt if I ended up working for government must have been crazy, like of corruption in Nigeria and everything else. But still, he was so, obviously we had enough to eat. We lived in comfortable houses, we had cars to drive, you know, went to good schools, as I just told you earlier. So when you look at the whole thing, you know, we're all doing great. And even now, my whole family, my brothers, sisters, we thank God we're all sort of in good places. We're all growing, we're all getting better every day. I know we could still do more. So I never had those stories. I had grass, I was right in the ditch. So, but because of that, I've never had a reason to fight my way out of those kind of places. So it becomes a problem for me, because that means we were not rich. I can use the word we were average. So because we've been average all my life, and even moving to UK too, you know, so I've never been in a place whereby you had to fight yourself out. So because of that, my biggest problem is, because most people tend to only move when things get really bad. You know, when you find yourself helping, you're thinking, you know what? Okay, now, and it's like someone who's put on weight and he knows eat right, exercise. Everyone knows. Everyone you look is that they tell you that same thing, but nobody bothers until the day you go to hospital and tell you, oh, you got diabetes. That's when, oh no, okay, now I'm gonna join the gym. You know, everything changes. And you know, I talk to people every single time, and you see clearly. You know, I listen to Bob Proctor. You were saying it's very easy. But most people just wouldn't believe and just wouldn't follow, and that's what the problem is. So my biggest weakness is the fact that I always need to fight and over-motivate myself to move, and that's why I think maybe that's why I'm driven by legacy, because that's the only thing that drives me, because nothing else can really, because I think about, you know what, like I go to Nigeria and do stuff, and I look at the people, I said, you know what, guys, I said, look, I live in England, I hold a British passport. Even if anything goes quickly wrong and I don't have a house and I don't have food, the government will feed me. You know, at least there's benefits to give me, okay, they'll find something for me to stay with my family, they will. Yeah, so at least I say, I don't need to be here. I tell the young people, I say, guys, don't think I'm coming here. I said, look, I come here to come and help you guys, organize events, you know, do these things. I said, the truth is, I can rip my Nigerian passport away, throw it away, and never go there again. And still, it doesn't affect my life in any way. Yes, my parents live there. Yes, some of my brothers live there, but they can come here and visit. So it's not really an issue. You see, so the only thing that drives me now is that legacy. And that's my biggest weakness most of the time, because I always have to fight myself. Victor, remember legacy. Victor, remember legacy. Because I don't have that driver of, you know, like Lesban was driven by, I have to buy a house for my family. You know, and my mother. Tony Robbins is driven by, you know, and I hear several other stories you can hear around. You know, people telling several things, oh, that happened to them, and then they had to refire themselves and go again. But I don't have that to fall back on. So our mind is a constant thing of what is ahead of me, that legacy. Victor, what legacy do you want to leave on this earth? And that's the only thing that's ahead of me that continues, that pulls me every day.
I mean, that's an actually good thing anyway, because that's driving you forward. You can't change your past, and that was given to you in effect. It's how you then develop from there. So the fact that you're still inspired to move forward, to still try and leave that legacy is aspirational, really. And it's good for the our viewers to pick up on that. You need to find something, no matter what it is. In your case, it's leaving that legacy that drives you forward and makes you get up and do things that otherwise you could actually just sit on your hands, as you said, but you choose not to, which is fantastic. Now, I want to ask you, is there anything scary or near misses that you had in your life where you look back and think, oh, blimey, I was very fortunate there. That could have really tripped me up in a severe way, or something that you've had a near miss that's made you look at life slightly differently? So you say you hadn't had any bad childhood memories or anything like that, but was there any incidents that could have shaped things different for you?
I think for me, most likely recently, I think maybe like 2-3 weeks ago when I had COVID. And I think
you had COVID, did you say?
Yeah, I had COVID, yeah. I had COVID.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was pretty bad. I think I was down for like 2.5 weeks. Yeah, so And you see, so in my own case, I think it really got me thinking, because it's been a while I've been sort of ill and lying in bed and everything else. And that really got me thinking, because I sort of, you know, when you think of thousands of people that lost their lives from this same thing, and you sort of look at it, I look at fine, you know what, I've had it and I'm alive. You know, you didn't take my life. And, you know, you begin to appreciate, you know, good health, because, you know, if you haven't experienced with someone like that, never been lying in bed with sickness for like years and years and years. So it made me appreciate good health, and it made me appreciate the fact that, you know what, many people went through this and didn't survive it, but you have survived it. So, and it sort of refires me on based on, you know what, you're talking legacy, you're talking stepping out there, you're talking about the world. So I think it's like, this is fine, this is your second chance. Because it's easy for someone listening to just say, yeah, it was only COVID anyway, or yeah, you know, it's easy for people to say that, you know, but don't realize the fact that, because what really got me was the fact that, yes, people had this. And you see, another side to look at it too is people have had it and they've been healed, and then obviously they end up with things like long COVID and stuff like that, we just have to deal with. You see, I was out running today, so that means my lungs are fine and my body is fine. I've got no issues at all, even after having it. So there's a lot to be grateful for. So I didn't take that for granted, and I would not even look down at you and say, oh no, because to me, that is a near miss. Because you can look around the whole world and think of how many people are even still dying of it, you know, and then you had it, and obviously mine was quite bad because I was bedridden for like nearly 2 weeks. So you can imagine that, you know, so I couldn't taste it.
Were you hospitalized at all?
No, I wasn't hospitalized, but I was at home the whole time, but obviously didn't get to sit at me going to hospital, but obviously, you know, sort of feeling very weak. I couldn't sit up for 20, 30 minutes at most. So if I sit by a computer, I had to, for 15 minutes, I had to go back and go and lie down. So I had to just keep lying down because I didn't have the strength to sit up for too long, you know, so. So when you look at all that now, it's easy for people to take that for granted. Oh, well, we're in modern technology, we've got it, we've got this, we've got that. But it's still another thing to look back and say, you know what, I'm just so grateful I pulled through it, knowing what's going on in the whole world. And I think, and I'm not just even just pulling through the sickness, I pulled through it totally healed, which is one thing I'm very grateful for. So to me, that is a near miss, and I'm really pleased that I can face life now, knowing that I've got a second chance, and I need to make very good use of that second chance.
Wonderful, wonderful. Oof. I'm glad you have recovered fully from that. That's good to hear. I wasn't aware of that, so I apologize. I didn't know, but I'm glad you're fit and healthy. That's a good thing. Right, and obviously you've got into speaking and you're very successful at it. I mean, how would you say your speaking is going forward, and have you got anything coming up now that we're sort of easing out of the lockdown situation?
Yeah, I think for me, the speaking is one thing in which I think I love doing a lot, and it's one thing I think I could say maybe I could see. It's like I believe it's something like dance. You know, I can't dance, and there are people in which I can't dance.
You do dad dancing, do you?
There's a saying that you can teach you can learn everything in this world anyway. So if I decide to go dancing school, most likely I'm going to learn. But there are people that will learn a lot faster than I am, because some people are natural at dancing. You know, the kids, whoever it is, they're very good at it. So I believe everyone's got a gift, and some people are very, very natural in their flow. So my own gift, I believe, is speaking, and I believe that's one thing that I know I'm pretty natural at actually doing. And it's one thing I'm very grateful for. So over the years, all I do is sort of brush up my skills, like when I joined Toastmasters and other areas and different courses I've actually done along the way. So I had to just brush up the skills to get the right way to actually deliver and actually do it. And that's what I've been working all my life. So so far, I can say I've done great. And I'm very, very grateful for that, because to me, I think I've actually gone beyond what I expected or even anticipated. Because for me, it was more of, okay, fine, why did I go into speaking? I just felt there were 200 million people in a country called Nigeria. I needed to find a way of inspiring them, sort of change their lives, to begin to take responsibility, begin to rebuild the country, and that was sort of where I saw it. So I chose, okay, fine, what way can I contribute? Everyone has different ways. Some people maybe go and open orphanages, some people maybe just send food, some people maybe open a business and employ people, different things. And I felt, what gift or talent do I have? Mine was speaking, so fine. Organize events, have conversations with them, try and mentor as many people as you can, only just inspiring and encouraging people, basically. And that's what I decided to do. So I started my journey out there, but obviously I didn't expect that I was going to find myself in other countries. So, you know, and then the interesting thing is just I'm from northeastern Nigeria, go to northeastern Nigeria, doing something there. Next to somebody calls you and says, oh, I see what you're doing in northeastern Nigeria. Can you come and do something in London with me? you know, and that's how the whole thing just grew one stage to another. And then I think I've been to about eight countries so far. And to me, I didn't expect that was going to happen. And hey, it's all happened. So I think what's probably is that stepping out, no matter how small it is, you'd be amazed at where it actually takes you to.
Fabulous, fabulous. Yes, you're doing a fantastic job. Long may it continue, and spread the word around the world. You're doing fantastically well. I've got to ask you, have you had any, I mean, obviously you've been to a lot of places now, you've spoken and you've been your MC, etc. Are there any funny stories that you can relay and let our listeners know that along your journey? Because obviously we've touched on, you know, possibility of bad stuff, but that's fine. But any funny stuff, any uplifting stories that you've discovered, you heard along the way or experienced?
I'm just trying to think of, I think one of the funny, I would say very funny, I think was accepting to go and speak, to go and MC an event in Albania. And I didn't
Albania?
Even know, wow. I didn't even know where he was on the map. So you know, it's like someone says to you, oh, because I was emceeing an event in London, and the person sees me and says, oh, you're doing a great job there. Can you come and, we're having an event in Albania we've been in 2 weeks actually. We have an event in 2 weeks time. Can you come and MC it? You know, and you're just sort of saying, okay, yeah, fine, I could do that. Just give me, I'll just check my diary. I'll text you when I get back home and things like that. Now, you know, and then you sort of turn around and walk away, and then you go looking for, and then you go Googling the maps and thinking, where is Albania? You know, so you've got to work out where it is, because you had no idea where it was, how far it's going to take me to get there. I didn't even know when I was like, can I get in without a visa? They were like, yeah, you can.
Oh,
you got a passport, you're all right. I'm like, oh, beautiful, let's do it then. You know, so I was quite interested too. And I think there was another one in which I was actually, in fact, the very first time I emceed an event, it was quite a big event. Obviously I was a speaker and I had no idea I could even MC anything. So because obviously I don't classify myself as funny, because I believe MC is going to be funny and make funny jokes and everything else. Yeah, I find myself pretty serious. So I never really got into MC, and I just sort of thought, now I'll leave it there. But I didn't realize there were different parts of it anyway, and that's why I decided to focus just on corporates, because obviously with corporates you don't have to be too funny. You just, yes, there's jokes, but you'll be different kinds anyway, compared to a wedding or a birthday party or different things. So I decided, okay, so I was in Nigeria then, and I was supposed to leave Nigeria on a Friday. And then I met up with these guys. They're like, oh no, they got an event on that Friday night. So if I could change my flight and go on a Saturday, they would love me to be at the event. So I said, fine, no problem at all. So it was quite a big event. One of the biggest hotels it's the biggest hotel in Abuja, in the capital. And there was especially like about 1,000 people to be there. It was a celebration. We had 9th anniversary. It's quite a big organization called Play Network in Nigeria. And it was their 9th anniversary they were having. So I told the guy, initially I said, look, I didn't come with ties, and don't worry, I'll give you a tie. Don't worry, no. I said, no problem at all. So I got ready and I was about to go for the event. So just as I was getting ready at the hotel, my phone rings. And it was a guy. He now said, Victor, we were organizing everything and we realized we didn't have an MC. Can you come and MC the event? So there's me thinking, I've never MC'd an event before, but I'm a speaker. So it's a microphone, isn't it? So I should be able to handle that. So what they've done was they invited a big celebrity from South Africa, and she's quite a big in South African lady. But the plan was, you know how they do all these contracts with celebrities? She was only supposed to go on the stage 3 times to introduce herself, to give out an award, and then to close. That's all she was. That was in the contract.
Right.
But obviously, there are other things in the program that somebody else has to handle, which obviously they didn't think about that today. So obviously, when they now look at the contracts and when they sign the celebrities, they have contracts and everything else, they realize, oh, we need somebody else now. So, and that's when he called me. So when I got there and the lady arrived, and I said, okay, fine, she's going to co-MC. They now said to me, they now mentioned her name. And she's a big celebrity in South Africa. In fact, even across Africa, I think she's quite big in Africa. But obviously, I don't follow celebrities as such. And obviously, I didn't know much about her. Right. So I now decided, when I got the name, and I was thankful for Google, I just turned around secretly to say hello to her as if I knew her. And I turned around secretly, Googled the name, checked out who she was. You just read where you can find on Google very quickly, go to their social media pages, see where you can get very quickly from there, and then you just turn around and continue conversations as if you've known them forever. So to me, I was probably caught out there, and I think that's a good tip for anyone here in case you find yourself somewhere you're not sure what's going on. Google is
very good. But you got through it okay.
Yeah, I got through it fine. I got through it fine. It was actually a great event and everything else, and I got through it, and that was the first time I MC. And from there, that's when I sort of thought, oh, I can actually do this actually, and obviously I've been doing that since then.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I've done a few myself of MC, and I do actually enjoy it as well. But so we're on the same line here. Right. Have you okay. Now obviously we're gonna have a bit of fun here. Is there anybody in your journey that drives you insane? Now don't say Edna. Is there anybody else that's got a character trait that you think, oh, do you know what? They drive me nuts. Now, obviously, don't name anybody here, but do you have anybody that in your journey you've had to deal with them and you think, oh, they just drive me crazy and I don't like this trait, but don't name them, please.
Yeah, you know, I'm actually thinking and I'm sort of digging through my head now, and I'm really thinking, can I think of anybody? Because I'm very good at ignoring people, which is one thing. This is one trait I think possibly I learned from my dad. I'm very good at ignoring, as in like literally not even paying attention. Okay. I'm just sort of thinking, I'm like really combing through, you know, other people in the speaking field, or you know, and you know what? You know the funny thing, I can't even think of any. I can't even think of any. Really? And yeah, and it, because I think it's down to perspective and the way I look at stuff. Because I always believe that no matter how horrible somebody is, there's something to learn from the person. You know, so if you can't learn something to take away from them, you can learn something from them not to ever do. You know, so it's that kind of thing where, okay, well, if it's like that, then I shouldn't really ever do stuff like that. You know, so you know, and that's the sort of way I look at it. So maybe because I play that way, that perspective way in my head, I never really sort of recorded it and sort of stuck. Right. Maybe later, if I, you know, this question is going to keep me thinking for the rest of the day, but none has actually dropped in my head. And I've been thinking about it for quite a while, actually. I can't even think of any. Well,
that's a good trait in a way, that you don't then pick up on anyone's negative trait. Yeah. And so that in a way, you're comfortable, you sort of, okay. And that's a great way of being, I suppose. So that you've dodged that one. So that's quite.
No, in fact, I can argue, you know, one of the things that drives me mad is arrogance. And you see, but the thing about arrogance is there's a thin line between confidence and arrogance. Absolutely. And obviously, if you don't know somebody very well, it's hard to tell whether it's confidence or it's arrogance. But even sometimes it's pretty obvious if the person opens his mouth and speaks and says stuff. So there's people I've met, and maybe we are human beings, obviously, we conclude things in our head at first. Then you get to know the person and realize, okay, maybe it's confidence. You know, and so there are times I've met people and I thought to myself, this guy is pretty, you know, so your mind begins to go in that sort of way towards arrogance. And after a while, you get to know them and think, okay, well, yeah, perspective, no problem at all. It's him. Maybe some of them are even borderline, they're hanging on the borderline. Arrogance. So there are times in which it look more like arrogance. So you're trying to place it in your head, you see. So I've come across a few, which I've sort of thought that sort of way, but end of the day, I make excuses for them and say, no, they're just being overconfident, so it's all right. You know? Yeah, it's
true. I mean, you're right. That is a trait that's very difficult to sort of get at the beginning, because I suppose initially you see the surface, you don't understand the person. You have to go through the first layer to see whether they are genuinely arrogant, or is it just they're confident in themselves. But yeah, from the surface, it always somehow comes across as arrogant, but it might not be. So yeah, I get your point. That's very good. Right, a couple of things now regarding your fears. Do you have any fears that along your journey that have sort of hampered you along the way? That sort of you know you have to battle through. I know you said about it wasn't really a fear, not complacency, because you were you know, you didn't have to break through a particular struggle, but is there any fear in your journey so far that has sort of stopped you and you sort of have to think twice about?
You know, when because I didn't have that fear of, well, as you just said now, I think maybe some of the fears I deal with that people talk about, which sounds very strange, is fear of success. Because it's a case whereby the higher you go, the more responsibility you carry. And there are times in which you have to ask the question, am I willing to deal with that? You know, so is that, and there are times in which even if I'm trying to put out a video sometimes, they're very sensitive topics sometimes you're thinking, I don't want to get involved in, because I think I'm a kind of person in which if you don't know me very well, I could be mistaken. You know, because I believe so much in context and perspective. So when I talk sometimes, if you don't listen to the full thing properly and hear me well, you might begin to misunderstand what I'm trying to say. And that's why I worry with social media, you see, and that's one of the fears I have. And there's a lot of videos I could put out there, but I will sort of stop. They are strong, they are, you know, but I will stop and think, no, I will not get involved in this, because I don't think I have the energy for the argument.
Mm.
You know, because you know, there's a people on social media who just turn up, they will listen to half a video, they will just make up their own, and you know, so like we live in a world with, there's so much going on now. We've had over last year, we had the arguments about 5G, we've had arguments about the what do you call them again now, the vaccines, you've had arguments about race, you know, there's a lot of things out there, you see. And with someone like me being a black man, so people think, okay, fine, you got a platform, how come you haven't said anything about it? And people tend to look at life based on the fact that, okay, if you're not saying anything about it, that means you're supporting it. But it's not really the truth. And that's one perspective I don't see. You see, because at the end of the day, I believe that I'm the head of my home as a man, well, as God says, I'm the head of my home as a man. So I believe that if I need to change the community, the first place I change is my house. So whatever happens outside there in the world, I have the conversation with my boys first, because I believe that's the most important point of call. But there are times in which you might want to put something out to maybe actually inspire people or to cheer people up, whatever it is. But that fear always comes in thinking, Victor, can you handle the backlash? Victor, can you handle these arguments? But then I feel guilty thinking, Victor, you could have said something because maybe you could have helped somebody. Maybe there's somebody out there who's actually thinking about the same thing. Because even when all the Black Lives Matter things were going on, people approach you for interviews. I said, look, I've got a whole different perspective to everything, and I cannot speak about it. I will not say anything because I'm scared of being, that's my biggest fear, of being misinterpreted or misunderstood. And I'm not willing to go through these long social media arguments of going back and forth to people that you don't even know, you know, because some people are very sensitive to these things. And the moment you say them, they will pounce on you and they will attack from left, and you'll be thinking, you try and ignore it. People think it's not easy to ignore it. You see, much of people say, oh, social media, don't worry, you can just delete them or block them. But no, words are so powerful. Someone makes one sentence and you sit down and dwell on it and and you're trying to get out of your head, but you take you days to forget it. And then you sit down thinking, why did I even do that? You see, and that's my biggest fear to see, because I challenge myself and say, Victor, you need to save stuff. But at the same time, I'm thinking, are you willing to handle this backlash? So sometimes when you look at it, so the same way with success too, and that's why I just focus on the things that I know, okay, I'm focusing on legacy now. These are things in which I'm passionate about. These are things I'm willing to stand and argue about from now to next year if we need to. And to me, that's what, but when it's other things, I think I say, fine, so you know what? I say, I have not been called in that area. I've not been called to deal with 5G. I don't have anything to do with it. So I'm not engaged in 5G argument. I've not been called to deal with vaccines. I'm not engaged in vaccine argument. I've not been called to, so there's different areas. So I just feel, what? I feel my calling at the moment is for a nation, which is Nigeria. And that's where I'm working towards building that legacy. So if there's any argument and any long conversations about Nigeria, I can sit there for hours. I've been on Clubhouse for 2-3 hours, discussing Nigeria with people, which obviously I will do. So I know that's where my heart and my passion lies at the moment. So I don't mind getting into arguments on that one. But anything else, you see, I will not comment about. So biggest fear will say, it sounds crazy, but I can say sometimes my fear becomes, you can think of fear of success. You've got to achieve all this, but you've got to bear in mind that once you've achieved the one level, you carry a bigger responsibility, and that means you're to the next level again. So it's continuous. So it's a journey that once you started, there's no going back on. So I have to continuously warn myself. But as I say, the fear will, in fact, the truth is, if you don't have any fear, that means it's not big enough. I say, if it doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. So it's easy for someone to say, I've got no fear at all. But no, if you're not fearing anything, then you're not stepping out crazily. When I enter stepping out crazy, I always have to deal with that fear first. If you go there, you realize you have to deal with the next level of it. So, and I have to keep dealing with that every single time.
That's actually a very good point, what you've mentioned there about social media, because your goal is in this boundary, and as you climb up the ladder, which is what you're successfully doing, you're going to get people outside of your journey of your road, I suppose, wanting to divert you to get opinions outside of that scope, so to speak. And you've got to avoid that temptation, because then you're moved into areas that you didn't necessarily want to go down. So you're very good at avoiding that, because that can be a challenge where you've got this external pressure. They're seeing you as a celebrity, I suppose, where they want to hear your opinion, but you've then stopped yourself from commenting because of the reasons you've given, that it could diverse you and cause this snowball effect down somewhere that you don't really want to go.
So those diversions, people, they could misquote you,
Yes.
And then that now, by the time you get back onto your own lane, you now realize that those things that you said to then try and defend yourself because you went off course will now be ones coming back to hunt you.
Yes.
And it now become a major distraction for you on your own journey.
Yes. Very good.
It takes a lot to stay within the boundaries. And I love the word you use, the word boundaries. That's a good one.
Yeah. I'm mindful of the time here, but we'll carry on quickly. If you had a best friend, I assume you have, how would they describe you? It's almost like the obituary thing, but you know, you're still alive now. But so your friend described, oh, Victor. If someone that I was to ask one of your close friends and say, oh, what's Victor like? What would you think they would say?
What's Victor like? I would say I'm a sort of guy in which I think I would say I'm passionate. And so everything I get myself involved in, I go well into it. I don't step toes into it. I'll jump into the whole river basically, and I'll make sure we work towards it. I'm very driven. I think I'm kind of person in which if I take up something, we make sure we finish. I will not take no. I will not stop halfway. And there's only very few things in this life in which I've done that with. I'm very daring. You see, so you know, if I step out.
Wow.
You know, as in somebody tell them the crazy things you want to do, and people think, "Nah, you can't do that," and they know, well, I'm gonna off I go.
Do you find that a challenge? Someone says, "Oh no, you can't do that." Do you think, "I'll show you"? Get that sort of a.
Yeah, I think most people always have that challenge in them when they say, "You can't do that." Okay, fine. You know what? I will show you the fact that I can do it. You see, and most of the time, it's not. I do it not because for the person. I do it for myself, basically, because it's the person's words obviously could discourage you, but still. At the end of the day, I believe it's for myself because obviously it's about fulfillment. So what do I want to do? What do I want to achieve? Where do I want to get to? And that's sort of why I sort of push myself. And I'm trying to be conservative with words now, so I couldn't mistake to say I'm blowing my trumpet. So it would have been easier if my friend has said it. My friend answered these questions, maybe it would have been easier. And integrity is something that is very, very close to my heart, and you know, I stick, no matter how silly something is. If I say I'm going to do it, I'll make sure I do it. There are times which people will think, okay, fine, now it's only something small. You can just tell the person you're going to do it. I said, no. I said I'm going to do that. I have to do it. So no matter, because it's just little things that begin to let go before you realize people, you know, you could be described as, it's Victor. Don't believe anything he says. You know, so I'm very, very strong on integrity, and because I'm the kind of person I am, I'm very open. So I'm very, very predictable. Very, very predictable. So you can tell what Victor can do and what Victor will not do. So
yeah, no matter what you stand for, which
exactly.
is a great trait.
I'm very open about what I stand for. So, and I work every day towards making sure I got the boundaries, and I stick to the boundaries, and I don't get distracted and pulled away.
Brilliant. Okay, I know you're an author. I wanted to ask you questions about your book and what drove you to write it, and have you got any more, you know, on the cards if there's something that you're thinking about going forward? I mean, what inspired you to write your book? Come on, let's I don't mind about the time. Let's just talk more, because I'm really intrigued about this conversation. So I mean, obviously you've written your book. Is there any more on the cards? Are you thinking of doing any more?
Yes, I'm thinking of the book was called The Seasons of Life. So now I'm thinking of writing next one, which is called The Harvest. So it now be growing organically. Because I think obviously with the book, I spoke about the 4 seasons of life, and the final season obviously was a harvest, where obviously all the seasons sown, you finally get the harvest. But most people think the harvest is actually the end point. But actually just it's like a repeat, basically. You know, you harvest, you put some seeds away, which you're now going to use to sow again, and it continues again. So, but obviously now you're approaching on a higher level. So I looked at it sort of that kind of way, and I was mainly inspired to write the book because if I was mainly my story anyway. So I was more or less okay. As much as I can say, I was actually in a place where, but it wasn't more of in a place where I felt very stuck. And then, and I think for me, it was more of the case whereby I was supposed to have upgraded to the next level of my life, but I think I was still playing at lower level. So I think that's more what it was. So that's where you got to understand there are seasons in life. So there are times so I'd finished sowing the seeds. I'd gone through all different seasons of the seeds. I've watered the seeds. I've done everything. I was supposed to be taking my harvest, but I was still trying to sow seeds in my harvest time. And I think that's when I sort of got the inspiration from. And I thought, so when I got the inspiration, okay, Victor, because I wasn't moving then because I was in the wrong season. I was applying the wrong tools in that particular season. So it's like trying to use it's raining and I'm walking around with a tool for planting seeds. You know, obviously what is now good to me. You know, so I had the wrong tools at that particular time. So, and that's what sort of turned my life around, because it gave me like a flash of, oh, this is actually the seasons I went through. So I decided I'll write a book, which is a very short book, actually, easy to read. I saw a coffee table book, I call it. You know, some people say, oh, Victor, I picked up the book, I read it in one day. I read it in overnight. And that was the whole idea anyway. So, because before I wrote the book, I didn't like reading books. So the whole idea, I wrote the book for people who don't like reading books. So I made it I made the print quite big, and I made the words very easy to read, and you know, so, and that's mainly what I just did. So hopefully I should be writing the second one, which obviously is growing organically, which I keep saying to people is actually in my head. All I have to do
is need to get it down on paper now. Okay, right. We are getting close to the end of the show. Now, if there's one takeaway that you could leave our listeners and watchers with, what would that be?
I think the biggest takeaway, I think most of the time people get overwhelmed by the size of what they're trying to achieve. And I think it's always down that theory of how do you eat an elephant, and they say a bite at a time. And that's why I'm so strong on that statement, small wins and big victories. And I think if we begin to celebrate the little wins, as I said earlier, you can look at stuff in a big scale. It could scare you whichever way it is, but just slow down, look at it again and say, okay, fine. How do I chip away till I get to where I'm trying to get to? And I say it's about who you're becoming in that process, because every victory you finish, a small win, you celebrate it. Always remember to celebrate it, because that joy you get in your heart to say, I've taken one good step. Then don't celebrate for too long. Just celebrate it quickly and then get to work again on the next step. And before you realize, you look back and think, oh, I've come this far, didn't realize it. And I think that's one big takeaway. So always remember small wins, big victories. Always remember to celebrate the small wins.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That is a wonderful takeaway. I'm going to ask you very quickly now some quick fire questions. Now, you don't have to think. They're really easy. They're just instinctive. It's just one or the other. One or the other. This is just a bit of fun, just to end the show. Right. So don't deliberate too much. Here we go. Red wine or white wine?
Red.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Plain food or spicy food?
Spicy.
Beach holiday or skiing holiday?
Beach any day.
Are you a morning person or night person?
Morning.
Morning person. Oh, wow. KFC or McDonald's?
McDonald's.
Everybody pauses on that one. I don't know why. Curry or Chinese food?
Curry.
Curry. Are you tidy or messy?
Very tidy.
Oh. This is the one that will stump people. Brown sauce or red sauce?
Red sauce.
Red sauce. Sea view or mountain view?
Mountain view.
Okay. And final one. More success on the horizon or time to put your feet up?
More success on the horizon.
Wonderful, wonderful. Victor, that was a tremendous insight into your background, and you had some wonderful words of wisdom for our audience and listeners. So I want to unmute anybody who's on there, and please put your hands together for Victor Tarfa. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.